Hey guys, Ryan here, Rytek Marine. I just wanted to share with you today a couple key features of our 3600 series mounts. I just did another video a couple minutes ago letting everyone know that the full line of 18 plus 3600 series mounts have now reached the patent pending stage. For the last 6 or 7 months I've been working actively on getting them patented, and that happened about a month and a bit ago that we got to the patent pending stage, but I'm just letting everyone know that now. But what I wanted to go over here today was the unique features of the 3600 series mounts through the whole lineup. Basically, they're solid as a rock, full aluminum, stainless steel construction, all CNC machined, very rugged. You're never going to hurt these things. I guarantee you, under normal fishing conditions, you're never going to wreck anything with it. The transducers do not physically move on the mount, so there's no more ratcheting or anything like that. All of them are solid to the mount, and the mount itself is what adjusts. They have mode and angle indicators, which is very unique with the infinite adjustability, so you can see physically looking at it what angle you're on, what mode you're in, and from there. To go from forward and down view to the third view in the transducers, whether it's scout, perspective, or landscape, basically you do that with a flick of the wrist, pull and turn on the mount, and that clocks the transducer 90 degrees. You don't have to pull the mount out, adjust it, change anything. Basically flick of the wrist and do it. When you go into that scout or perspective or landscape, when you go into that mode, no longer is the handle or the arrow indicator that you're pointing at off by 90 degrees. Everything's in line perfectly. The key feature to these mounts, and what really shines with them, is the third view. So again, that landscape, perspective, or scout mode. To be able to infinitely adjust the angle to the depth of water that you're in is an absolute game changer. The factory mounts and many others on the market, they all have the tooth serrations and the ratcheting and clicking. Basically, you're stuck anywhere from probably 8 to 20 degree increments for that ratcheting. These mounts do not do that. They allow you to infinitely adjust your angle to the depth you're fishing in. And the easiest way for me to explain this to you is to think of it like a flashlight, which I'm going to show you here, hitting the lake bed. The factory mounts, through all my research and development, basically what I came up with is they are best in the third view for that 18 to 22 foot of water. That's where the factory brackets shine with the scout, perspective, or landscape view. Humminbird actually has another shallower water view, and the new active target one does too, but you're stuck at those views. So basically, the factory brackets in that 18 to 22 feet of water, that's where they shine. They're excellent images at that exact depth. Anything deeper or shallower, they really start to get that fast. So what I wanted to show you here is how it all works. So if we think of a flashlight hitting the lake bed in that 18 to 22 feet of water, and basically you're shining it down, and basically you have an area here that, say this is 50 feet. In 18 feet of water, you get 50 feet. What happens is that 50 feet from the back of the beam to the front of the beam, that's where you get really nice images. You can see your structure, you can see fish because there's contrast. The fish are sitting over top of the structure, so you can see the contrast because you're seeing the lake bottom, and that adds a lot of contrast and nice views. But the problem is that when you get into shallower water or deeper water, is that angle is still on the same angle, and what's happening, instead of being like this now in 20 feet of water, let's go down to 5. All of a sudden that beam that's making contact with the lake bed is really, really small. So what happens, you might only, instead of that 50 feet of ideal coverage from me away from you or towards you, you now may only have 5 feet of coverage, and that is not going to show enough contrast to, number one, see structure, and most of all, to see fish. You need to have the bottom background basically to make the fish and everything else that's in the water column, not on the bottom, in the water column, show up and have superb imaging. So basically what you want to do is bring this transducer upwards so that the beam is then shining a longer distance, so you get more contact with the bottom. So that's where when guys, bass guys want to go into 5 feet of water or less, I've got customers that go into 2 feet and they can see amazing images with their multi-view transducer mounts because they're allowed to infinitely adjust that angle to the depth of water that you're fishing in. Deeper water, a lot of people have never heard of using the third view in deeper water. Personally, I love it. I'm a walleye guy, salmon guy, so I'm into deep water all the time. Basically, what happens in deeper water is that 18 to 20 foot that you might have had that 50 foot of coverage there, and that's just made up right now. I'm just trying to explain that to you. So basically, that beam from here to here is 50 feet. When you get into, say, 60 feet of water, all of a sudden, that beam might be 2 or 3 times that distance. So what happens is it really bleeds out and things get distorted. You're no longer seeing crisp structure and all that because everything's just bland, basically. It's not good because you're looking at way too much coverage there. So basically when you get into deep water, instead of raising the transducer up, you actually angle it downward. So what you're doing is instead of the beam hitting, and if you can see the light here to over here, basically you're bringing it down, so you're shortening the contact patch of the lake bottom, and you're bringing that back down to that ideal 50 foot or whatever that factory bracket was giving you in the depths that it was designed for. So what happens in deeper water, you're seeing 50 feet of the lake bed, and you're clearly able to see fish up above that area in the water column because there's contrast from down below. So, the fish will pop out. If you have, the more amber looking color palettes, the fish are going to be like a nice bright whitish color, swim around up in the midsection of the water column there. So that's what you want to do. So in shallow water or deep water, that's where my mounts shine amazingly well. That's what they were designed. I took a long time of research and development to get to this point that is where they're absolutely amazing. Images that you get are just superb. I've had Garmin guys that ran Garmin Perspective since day one when it first come out, and they throw the transducer mount quickly on the boat and go out in the lake and call me with an hour and say, oh my goodness, I've never seen perspective used like this before. It's being able to adjust that angle and either spread that beam hitting the lake bed out when you get in shallower water or tighten it up in deeper water, and it's absolutely mind-blowing what you can do. So that is the #1 function, and what makes this mount shine is that ability to fine-tune and adjust. The other thing a lot of people don't think about is forward view. Guys say, oh, forward view doesn't matter if you can adjust it. Well, me being a walleye guy in deeper water, I actually like running forward view, not in the standard view right there. The standard view puts the beam right along the surface of the water, basically. You can cast and see top water and all that stuff. Walleye, smallmouth bass, they're not up at the top. I'm fishing in 20, 30 feet of water. They're suspended midway or down at the bottom. And typically, I'm fishing with a partner in the boat. He's usually at the back. So what I like to do is actually angle the transducer down further. The beam in the active target and the Garmin 135 degrees, so it's typically shooting out this way and then angling down this way. I like bringing it, the beam shoots downwards, and then what happens is the beam at the back is actually shooting out a lot further than what it was. Instead of just hitting behind your feet, it's actually well past the back of the boat. So you can see fish that are around your buddy, you can see him jigging. It's kind of neat if all of a sudden you look on the screen and you can see fish back there. You say, off the starboard back end of the boat there's one sitting there, or if you've got it networked on one screen and one at the back, he can see that also. So that's pretty neat. So you do not have to run these mounts the way that Garmin, Lowrance, or Humminbird wanted you to run them. And that all comes down to that infinite adjustability. The first time you get these things out on the water, you are going to want to take a 3/16 Allen wrench and a 9/16 wrench, and you're going to set the tension up of this through bolt to how you like it. I set it up like this basically when I put them together. That's pretty well what most guys want. Some guys like it looser, some guys like it a lot heavier. So you're gonna have to set it up and adjust it once and then never again. The only time you ever will have to is, say, one day you're bass fishing, the next day you're trolling for muskie at 5 miles an hour and water pressure's moving that transducer. That's the only time you're gonna have to tighten that up after the initial setup. Yeah, so that's the 3600 series mount. I just wanted to go over that whole third function or third view there of what makes this one unique. And if you guys have any questions, please just email me, contact me through YouTube, the Facebook page, the website, instant messenger on the website now, or give me a phone call. That is always the best way to get a hold of me. And just wanted to share. Thanks a lot, guys.